Welcome back to Chaos Cabin. Hey guys, what's going on? I got something kind of different for you this time. This is not a video about video games per se, but it's about my journey, my adventure with this PS4 Pro that I got from a friend. A few months back, a friend of mine called me. He's not a gamer. He had acquired two PS4 Pros when he cleaned out a house that had been, I don't remember if abandoned or the tenants had been evicted or something. But he had plugged them in. Neither one of them would light up at all. So he took one apart with, like, I don't know, a claw hammer to see if there was anything valuable inside, like a RAM memory for a computer. There wasn't, and he discovered that. But in the meantime, he literally just pulled it apart. So the case was destroyed. All the components had just been torn off or cut off with a pair of dikes. And so there wasn't anything inside that was any good. I mean, nothing. Fortunately, he left the other one alone. And I looked at it. I tried to fire it up. Sure enough, there was no power, no video out, no lights on at all. If it lights up and there's no video out, well, you got an HDMI port that's bad. But if nothing happens, most likely it is a power supply. Or, worst case scenario, blown out motherboard. So, I took this in. I called my local shop that does that I get my used games from, and said, hey, I got this box, will you test it? What do you charge to test it? What do you charge to put it in a power supply? They told me. I said, all right, I'm on my way. So I got down there, and this young lady behind the counter pulls the case off, and she looked at it and she says, this can't be in our store. You got to take this out right now. So out it went. I decided it's all on me. Now, I didn't think to record this until I'd already gotten the top case off and shook out. And then I thought, I'll record this for posterity. But man, you should have seen how full this thing was to begin with. I did electronics repair in one of the big box stores for a while, and the thing about power supplies is they really attract roaches because of the constant warmth, especially if a system is on standby. At this point, I use this little vacuum cleaner and then a corded air blower and copious amounts of soap, water, and then alcohol to finish the wipe down with. Remember, right now, all I'm wanting to do is put in a power supply and see if I can get it to light up. After that, I'll look and see what else is a problem. Under this shiny plate is the power supply, so as you can see, I don't have to take this very far apart just to do that. What do you think, guys? Can this thing be saved? Let me know down in the comments. I did have to take the other side off as well, mostly just to get to a couple of screws on the other side. It was also a bit of a mess. You can see here that I only actually had one screw to take out. The rest of it just snapped together. Had that factory seal there that if you break it, ruins your warranty. And I guess my warranty's bad now. But and then on the other side, I had just a clip, but it looks like something where you'd want to put a screw, but it's not. So just the one screw right there in the center, and that is number 8 security Torx. Alright, I've already got all the screws out of the back of the case. I just had this one screw right here at the edge of the case. So now I'm at the part where I'm going to need both hands. So I'll be right back. Well, I'll be damned if this side isn't nasty as hell too. Cockroaches, cockroaches, cockroaches. You want cockroaches? We got your cockroaches. PS4 Pro Cockroach Hotel. Roach Hotel. Alright, just to be fair, there's some pet hair and lint in there too, and everything's a little tinged tan from cigarette smoke. Alright, here's the bay open, ready for the new power supply, which you see up there on the top. There's the new SSD 2 terabyte drive, and I will replace the original drive, which you see right there, if the system will fire up. One of the things to remember when putting this case back on is not to snap these little tabs off accidentally by getting them behind this frame. One of the tricks is to, after you hook this over the lip, pull it towards you, and again, be very careful that the tangs are not down behind that frame. I don't have a lot of footage of this part of the procedure at this point. I still wasn't really planning on making a video out of this, and so I didn't really show much of the disassembly. That does come kind of later in the video. Spoiler alert, it has to come back apart. And on this model, it's right on the cusp of where they made some changes, and so knowing the model doesn't really give me enough information to know what power supply it was. So I pulled it apart, took the power supply off, got the number off the power supply, got one ordered. It came in, I put it in, and it fired up, but it went to couldn't load because it couldn't find the operating system. So at this point I figured the hard drive was blown out, and in anticipation of rebuilding this thing, I bought a 2 terabyte drive earlier. So I put it in, and again it fired up, but there was no operating system. So I downloaded the file to reinstall it, and it wanted to, of course, access it from the USB port. And it could not read either the drive or the controller. It wouldn't read either one. It wasn't there. So I looked at the USB port, and it was nasty. So I vacuumed it out, I blew it out, tried it again, still nothing. I mean, it was just coated in lint, pet hair, cigarette smoke, I don't know, Twinkies, Cheerios, you name it. This thing, it was nasty. So what I did was got a coaster like you get at the restaurant to set your drink on, slice it up into thin sticks, put some cleaning fluid on it, and use that to scrub it out with. There it is, the Tightwads cleaning kit. These work great for cleaning out USB ports. Went online and I was looking for stuff specifically to clean USB ports, and I either couldn't find them or they're ridiculously expensive, and I'm a notorious tightwad, so I didn't want to go that route. So anyway, got the OS to load, it fired up, and everything looked good. So let's take a look. Alright, now I don't know how much of this you'll be able to hear, but I got this PS4 Pro all put together and the operating system loaded out after a number of little hurdles, and it was doing real good. So I thought I'd fire up Horizon Zero Dawn and see what it looked like, and it looks really good. However, it literally sounds like a jet engine. I had heard that said about these things, but I didn't think it'd be this loud. I'm pretty sure the fan needs to be replaced. So let me shut it off and we'll see what kind of a difference that makes. Yeah, at idle it's nearly silent, but boy, when the game loads it is really loud. So I'm gonna have to pull it apart and put in a new fan and replace all the thermal paste in there. Maybe that'll fix it, so I'll do that, then check back. Alright, here's the new fan. Notice it does have the circle loop on it there. That may or may not help quiet it down. I guess we'll find out. Let me get this thing apart. We'll put that in. Alright, I've unplugged everything and now I gotta pull all these screws out. Some are a Torx 8 security screw and some of them are just a tiny Phillips screw. So you might notice I have marked the ones that are a Phillips screw with a little cross next to each one because I don't do this often enough to remember it, and they kind of scatter. Over here around this they are all Phillips head screws, for example. So I'm going to take all those loose. Alright, I was expecting this to be really grungy, but it is not bad at all. I have not done any cleaning. I just pulled this cover off, and now I'll go through here and clean the motherboard gently. Gently yet firmly. Now these little thermal pads, or these little chips, are kept cool by these thermal pads conducting heat away from them and to this board where it then dissipates. Now you can see I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then here is 7, 8. Those are still on the chips right here and here. I want to make sure you don't lose those, and make sure they're centered on here when you put it back together. So remember, take a picture at every phase of the operation so that you have something to refer to later. It's real easy to think, oh yeah, I'll remember how that goes, and then later you don't. Now when I took this off, there was, as I mentioned earlier, Torx 8 security screws and Phillips head screws. I marked where the Phillips head screws went. All the Phillips head screws are shorter and smaller, what am I trying, gauge, diameter, whatever, than the Torx screws. So you want to mark that board so you know where these go back in, because they're not interchangeable. That's how you can tell what goes where, is by whether it's a Phillips head screw or Torx head screw. So I've got all my Torx head screws here, my Phillips head screws over here. both of them, like these are all the same size Phillips screws, these are all the same size Torx screws, but they are obviously different sizes. So mark that plate before you pull it off, so you know what goes back where. Alright, now I don't know if this is quite ready to lift out. Let me figure this out and then I'll get back. Okay, the motherboard isn't quite ready to come out. These two screws here need to come out, and maybe something under that. I'll pull those out. These are Phillips head screws, and won't know for sure till I get them out, but they appear to be an identical match for the one screw that holds the hard drive in. So let me pull those off and get those next two plates off, and I'll see what's what. Well, these are very different than the screw that holds in the hard drive. So very different is better than just a little different, because that way you don't get them mixed up. So I'll just put those there, and then this comes off. And this comes off. Alright, I'm going to set the camera down and figure out what I got to do next. Alright, that actually was ready to come off. And you lift this up, it slides under here in the back. So you want to lift it up real gentle here and pull it forward. What was keeping it from coming up is on the other side, right here is the chip, and on the other side of that is some thermal paste that conducts the heat from the chip to the board to all that, where it's then dissipated, and that was a little bit sticky, but there weren't any more screws. So I'm going to put the camera down and lift this board out, because I'm a human and I only have two hands. Alright, here you can see where the thermal paste was put on there, and they got a little happy with it and got on a bit too much, which is fine because this is a non-conductive paste, and this is why I don't use liquid metal. Thermal, I don't know, wouldn't be called paste, but it's they make a liquid metal that will actually cool a little bit more, but if you get sloppy like this, it'll toast your board because it's conductive, and it will cause a short, and then you're looking at a new motherboard. So I, just for safety reasons, and because I don't do this all the time, you have to know exactly how much to put on there and not mess it up or you'll fry your board. So I just use standard thermal paste, and so now I'll clean that off, and you can see I have a little bit of cleaning to do. There's still some bug carcasses in here, so I'll vacuum and blow all that out. And there's more thermal pads right here that match those, so don't vacuum or blow those away. Yeah, those pads there. This awesome little tool came with the thermal grease. It's kind of helpful. I'll go ahead and just wipe it off. But what I usually use, because I'm a tightwad, is I'll save my Amazon gift cards and cut them up into whatever size I need, and they make great little disposable scrapers you don't have to clean. So, you know, hot tip. Probably not necessary, but I'm here. Gentle is the key. Alright, I'll do the other side. So very shiny, like a mirror. I hope you guys understand how hard this is for me to hold the camera with my dominant hand and scrape this with my non-dominant, clumsy, stupid hand. All this I do for you. Keep drifting, don't I? Again, gentle, very little pressure. Alright, that's that. Now I'm going to vacuum these carcasses out of here. Alright guys, here's a little trick. I used to, well, let me put it this way. I built, maintained, and serviced computers until I retired. Prior to that, I was a mechanic. But there's things you learn along the way, like what all needs to come loose so that I can lift this out. Well, you can figure that out by getting here and gently lifting. Let's see. That doesn't come across real well on the camera, but you can see it lifts, but only so far. And then I'll do the same thing over on this side. You can see it lifts, but only so far. Both of them, what they have in common is this screw. So that screw's going to have to come out. And then I can lift on the back end, and you see kind of the same thing. See this? Get a different angle. This lifts, and it's loose up to this screw. I don't have to take out these screws to get this out. Now I may have to take these out, these 4 screws here. I may have to take those out later, but right now to get this plate out to access the fan, I don't. So I'll take this one and this one out, and I'm going to mark those as being Phillips head, and then I'll see if I need to get anything else out. So I'll be right back. I need both hands. Now here's another thing to make note of. These 2 screws that I just referenced to pull that plate are different than all of those other Phillips head screws, that whole stack there, that I had to remove to get that initial plate off. So make note of that. Don't mix them up because they won't interchange. These are smaller diameter and longer than these. So keep them separated. Yeah, make sure you've got something like this. Magnetic dish, which also makes great snack dish when you're gaming. Of course, you want to clean it first. You know, clean it in between uses. Sometimes it's a screw tray and sometimes it's a snack dish, but you want to clean it in between uses. This will allow you to keep your screws separated, and it's really handy. Alright, so I've got this plate out. That was all that's holding it, and it doesn't look too bad until you go around this side. Now, can anybody guess why the fan was struggling and was so damn loud? So I'll peel that mat of fur and grunge off there. and then give this a good wipey and clean this out a little bit, because there's a few carcasses in there, not too bad. And that fan would probably be fine, but I got a new one, so I'm replacing it anyway. It's supposed to be an improvement and a quieter, lower decibel fan. So I will clean this off and I'll be right back. Oops. Yeah, that's not working. I'm gonna go out back with a blower, blow that crap out of there. Yeah, that's nasty. Alright, I'm doing this out on the back porch. I don't want to blow this crap around in my house there. So there's the mat. I'm going to be using this blower. Started using this several years ago because for the price of 4 or 5 cans of spray air, compressed air, you can buy one of these and it never freezes to where you have to let it rest, and it never runs out. Alright, I'm going to put the camera down. I need both hands, but I think you get the idea. Alright, so I'm down to the fan. Looks like it only takes 2 screws to get out. I don't think the fan has a problem, really. It was noisy because it was trying to pull air through those clogged fins, and those are clean now. But I do have a new fan, and it is supposed to be quieter than the original fan, so I'm going to go ahead and swap it out and I'll be right back after that. Alright, at this point I got the fan in. That was just those 2 small screws, and then I've got this plate in. That was also screw there. And now I'm going to put the motherboard back in, but I wanted to point out these right there, little spikes. Let's see if I can get that. Yeah, those little spikes go into the power supply. This cable here also goes into the power supply, so be careful when you slide that through this hole that it doesn't get bent. And since I haven't done this much, I like to dry fit it first, then I'll put the thermal grease on here and put it together. So the other thing is make sure all these wires are outside and accessible, all these little power cables and antennas and whatnot. Otherwise, you'll be taking it back apart, or you may pinch them and damage them. Really not a, I mean, you want to take care, but it's kind of improbable that you'll damage something. So I'm going to put some thermal grease on this and then we'll go. Alright, I've got full coverage on my thermal paste, and you want to be sure and get full coverage. Can be thin, just has to be full coverage, otherwise you'll lose cooling efficiency and it'll be apparent pretty fast. So I'll go ahead and put this motherboard back in place, and remember to watch these spikes. Make sure this goes through this hole, and the tail end of it goes in first, and then it drops down. One other thing, make sure you haven't lost any of these thermal pads here. Alright, I've laid this back in. This will go in here like this, and tighten these screws down a little on each side until they're snug, because you don't want to just tighten one down, tighten the other down, because it'll get it cocked in there. You want to do it evenly. Again, I'm going to use both hands, so I'm going to shut the camera off. Now I'm going to put this plate on, make sure all these thermal pads are on there, and if they're cockeyed, straighten them out. They're slightly sticky on one side, so make sure they're on, and then put it on top of this and keep an eye on it, make sure they don't fall off. Alright, I'm going to put this down. Alright, these all need to be put in very gently and then snugged sequentially to draw this together flatly and not to skew it or warp it. And again, just snug, if you don't crank down on any of this stuff. These are those heat sinks with the little heat pads, the thermal pads. So yeah, those need to be done sequentially. You know, this one, this one, this one, this one. A little bit at a time on each one. Well guys, if you made it this far, you might as well give me a like and subscribe and maybe leave a comment. The case went back on like it came off, and again, there's a million videos online on how to do that. It's not very hard. The case is getting the case off is not hard at all. Just do it in reverse order. Okay, so I got the new fan in. Let's do a comparison of what it used to sound like compared to how it sounds now. Alright, we're in the game. We're running around. Now at this point, with the other fan, you couldn't hear anything. All you heard was a jet taking off. So I'll mute it. Let's see what we hear. Here is mute. Now I hear a bit of a hum in there, but I honestly think it is my beer fridge because the PS4 Pro is quiet. And now the sound's back on. Well, I'd say we have a win. Quick thought about hard drives. I will leave a link to the hard drive I used, but remember I started this project months ago and I bought the hard drive in anticipation of that. When I bought the hard drive, it was about $83. That same hard drive, last time I checked, just a day or two ago, $206. So it's more than doubled in a few months. And that is due to the popularity of AI and everybody and their brother starting to turn up AI data farms, and they are building literally acres of data farms, and that's where all the RAM and any sort of memory is going to. So RAM is up, solid state drives are up, anything that requires RAM is up. That's why one of the biggest reasons that the Xbox and the PS4 prices have either held or gone up, even though we're 5 years into their 10-year life cycle. Anyway, that's it for this episode. Hope to see you next time. Take care. Okay, so got the new fan in. Let's do a comparison. Okay, so I got the new... Okay, let's start over from the top. Okay.